Hello folks and welcome to Paddock Pass, your post-race edition for Test 1 2019. Welcome to Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia, where the sun has set on the first 4 days of pre-season testing. What have we learnt? Quite a lot. I mean, we always say you can't learn too much or read too much into that first week of testing or even any of testing, but it's been a fascinating 4 days here in Spain. Of course, the team launches have all happened. We've seen, either through renders or actual physical beings, the cars of 2019, but this was the first opportunity to see them out on track. And I think the first thing to say, really, well done to Williams for actually getting a car on track for the last day and a bit of testing. They'd had a really torrid time getting here. The other thing we've got to say is just really bulletproof reliability, seemingly for almost everybody. The sheer number of laps turned over the last 4 days has blown everyone's mind and is a testament to the incredible engineering on display in the sport. Should we go and have a little walk, Tom? Let's do it. Right, let's go into the pit lane and let's start off with talking about the reigning world champions Mercedes, who of course are defending their 5 consecutive now drivers and teams World Championships. They arrive at every test every year, obviously, as the favourites and the team with the biggest target on their backs. Particularly so maybe this year, as they haven't really changed much in the operation of the team. They're one of only 2 teams that have the same driver lineup. Same team boss, same tech boss, same engine boss. There's very little that has changed, and so the expectation is very high. Test started. They weren't really near the top of the timing sheets, really, at all, for most of the 4 days. They just got their heads down, stayed on one of the harder compounds of tyres, and just put the laps in. Both drivers taking part in all days, splitting it at lunchtime. But despite the fact they weren't at the top of the timesheets on any day in particular, there isn't a feeling down here of panic. There isn't a feeling of trepidation. There's still that, I think, confidence in themselves that they had their program, they had their run plan, and they stuck to it. I don't know, make your minds up for yourselves. Here's Lewis Hamilton, here's Valtteri Bottas. See if you can detect any pessimism or fear in their voices.
Pretty much the same as every beginning of every year. The Ferraris always particularly look strong. Particularly the last few years, they look very strong right at the beginning. So that's to be expected. For us, we're just going about our process, just trying to understand. And as I said, everyone's working incredibly hard, so it's been normal.
It is too early to say. I think still with the development, the characteristics are gonna change a bit, but nothing kind of fundamentally wrong. And normally my style has been to kind of adapt into the car. That in theory is always the best way to go, because not every year the car can be perfect for you. So. For sure, I think equally me and Lewis been involved with the development with engineers, but as we know now, there's also a lot kind of based on simulations, what kind of car in theory is the quickest. Yeah, we still do need to keep in mind that we need to try and develop the car, and maybe this year even more it is important.
Ferrari wrapping up the first 4 days of testing. They always say, as we said at the top, you can't read too much into testing. What we tend to do is read body language, either the car out on the track or the drivers themselves. And Sebastian Vettel, after day 1 in his SF90, literally floated across the paddock to his hospitality unit. There's a confidence down here at Ferrari that they perhaps should have had for the last couple of years. I believe they've had the best car going into the start of the season for the last 2 seasons, but they've never quite been able to take it through to its logical conclusion and snatch the championship, which by rights could potentially have been theirs. Is this the year that it all comes good for Ferrari? Arriva Bene's gone. Mattia Binotto, head of the technical department, becomes head of the team. Kimi Räikkönen has left in his place one of the youngest and most exciting drivers in a generation, Charles Leclerc. We talk so much about Leclerc. Is the pressure on him more so than Vettel? Everyone expects it's only a matter of time until Leclerc matches, if not starts to fight Vettel for potential race wins. Anyway, all we can talk about now is testing and that body language. Both drivers on cloud 9, seemingly with a car which is quick, reliable, seemingly bulletproof. These guys right now, if Paddock Chapter is to be believed, could sit anywhere from 0.4 to 0.5 ahead of even Mercedes. It's been, no exaggeration to say it, a great start to the year for Ferrari. Is this the year that it all comes good? I think Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc, I mean, you look at their body language, I think they might think so.
We couldn't have hoped for a better day. I think it was unbelievable. I think the car was working really well. We had no issues slowing us down. We actually completed the program just the way we wanted. We were able to squeeze a little bit more out even. Yeah, first impressions are very good and strong, and yeah, it seems that the car is working. I feel comfortable. Obviously, I'm still a bit rusty because I haven't driven for a couple of months, but yeah, getting better. I certainly got enough laps today. I'll sleep well tonight, but no, the car is working. I'm very happy. It's doing what I want, so very pleased at the moment.
Well, it's feeling very good. For now, I wouldn't comment too much because it remains testing, but the feeling is good in the car. Many laps, reliability is very good. We did all the program we wanted every day, so this is extremely important for the team. And yeah, for now we are very happy.
And coming from Sauber to this car now, was it an easy one to switch from one car to another, a different car?
Well, let's say already it's a different position I'm in, because obviously last year when I arrived in winter testing, I was coming from Formula 2, so the step was big. Now it's from a Formula 1 car to another Formula 1 car, so obviously, the step is smaller, but I got used to it very, very quickly, so I already feel quite at ease with the car. There's still a lot of things that I need to get at ease with, but already the feeling is very good. And yeah, it's a car that is quite easy to drive now.
And Mercedes and Red Bull, how much do they have to be worried about the great performance of Ferrari so far?
The performance is has no sense for now, because it remains testing, and they are probably not pushing, and we are not either. So we don't know how much the others are sandbagging. So we'll see at the first race. But yeah, as I've said, I think the main importance for these tests are to do the program of the day, and that's what we are doing, so we are happy.
Now that is due to be one of the talking points of the season. It is, of course, the new relationship between Red Bull Racing and Honda. It's not been an easy few years for Honda in Formula One. Of course, we all know how bad the relationship became between Honda and McLaren, and then we started to see those little sort of sparks of light appear in the relationship with Toro Rosso last season. Honda now are not just with Toro Rosso, they're now with the big sister team, they're now with Red Bull Racing. And Red Bull have described this week as one of, if not the best pre-season testing they've ever had. Is that just new girlfriend syndrome? She's the best, she's the one, I'm going to marry her, she's epic. Perhaps there's an element of that. Perhaps there's an element of keeping the face to Renault, their former beau. Perhaps, though, when you look at it and the fact that they have run consistently and run fast and haven't yet cranked the engine up, it's actually a genuine sentiment and a genuine statement, because they have had a really good week. In fact, the only issue they had was end of day 2, Pierre Gasly getting a little bit excited and spinning the car off and putting it into the barriers. Other than that, it's been a really good week. Some new aero parts on the car tried out in day 3 and 4. And Red Bull Racing, going into this season, many people think, well, going into the second week of testing, we should say, perhaps on terms with Mercedes. Max Verstappen returns for another year at Red Bull Racing. His partner in crime this year, though, not Daniel Ricciardo, Pierre Gasly. Two drivers of immense speed, very different personalities, very different mindsets. It's going to be a fascinating potential powder keg between the two of them. Here is Max, here is Pierre.
Well, I'm just very happy with the way we are working together. You know, it's all very focused and calm, and everybody knows their job, so that's good.
Are you starting to find the limitations that you have with the engine? Have you been able to turn it out, really push it yet?
No, of course not, but I think nobody. So I think at the end of the day, what is most important is that everything is reliable, that the car is working well, and you know, you try a lot of different things on the car, because with the new regulations, you have to understand what direction you have to go in, and that's exactly what we did.
A lot of long runs, but a lot of tests done for the team. So I will say overall, the overall feeling with the car is really good. Even if it doesn't show it on the lap times, we are testing, and we know what we're doing. So I'm pretty happy. Compared to last year, I would say last year was pretty smooth, and this one is also pretty smooth. So managed to do a lot of laps in the car, which was important for me. Get used to it and get comfortable also with my new engineer, and do some productive work for the team. So far we managed this good work, and we need to analyze all the data from this week, stay focused. A lot more work next week, and try to be as ready as possible for Melbourne.
So if Pierre Gasly is at Red Bull with Daniel Ricciardo, of course he has moved to Renault in that massive story that emerged just after the summer, or during the summer actually. I was on a beach when the news came out in Croatia. That was rather nice. Anyway, doesn't matter. Daniel Ricciardo is now a Renault driver along with Nico Hülkenberg, and you've got to say there's massive expectation down here at one of only a few factory teams in Formula One. They can't afford to have another year of rebuilding. This has to be the year on which they really start to make waves in the sport. I was talking to the team bosses at the launch, and I said, if this is a house build, if this project is a house build, where are you in that build process? And they said, we're putting the roof on. We've built the foundations, we've built the walls. Now the roof goes on. And that's what this year has got to be for them. The car itself seems to be much of a development over last year's car, an evolution if you like, but they have made huge strides with the power unit, because part of the reason that the relationship with Red Bull broke down was that the power unit didn't provide either the efficiency, the performance, or crucially the reliability to allow Red Bull to fight consistently for race wins and thus a championship. Have they made enough of a step forward to allow the factory team to do that this year? Time will tell, but expectations are high, both for Nico Hülkenberg and for Daniel Ricciardo.
It's hard to kind of compare ourselves to where everyone else is at the moment. I feel like most teams have the ability to pull out some quick laps for now. So yeah, trying to pick how competitive we are, it's tricky. But I think this morning I was more happy personally than I was yesterday afternoon with the car. So I think we're starting to get, or at least personally, I'm starting to get a bit more of an understanding of what I want. Trying to feedback as much as I can to the team and the engineers. So yeah, it's been, even though I haven't done a ton of laps this week, I think it's still been very productive.
No major issues, no bad surprises, all pretty straightforward. Obviously in day 2 we had some issue with the DRS and with the wing there, but that was just taken care of by now from the team, so they reacted well on this. I think in terms of the car, it feels okay. So you're going to ask me where do we see ourselves? I don't know yet, to be honest. I haven't really looked into that. It seems like every year that you do more in Formula 1, you get more relaxed about this, especially during testing time. And you always do end up with a very customized car for Barcelona, because after 4 or 8 days of running, it is very much Barcelona setup, which is unique here. No track is as smooth as this, so it's not always entirely representative, but so far I have good feelings.
It was about this time last year that we asked the question of whether the American F1 team had the 4th fastest car in Formula 1, and when we arrived in Melbourne, it pretty much played out that yeah, they did. They dropped the ball massively that weekend, though, and lost a huge raft of points, and they never really recovered from that. They fought Renault, aforementioned, for 4th place in the Constructors' Championship, ultimately missing out at the end. But they shocked the establishment with what they had been able to achieve. Now, we've already talked about Mercedes being one of the 2 teams that hasn't changed their driver lineup. The same is true here. And like Mercedes, every part of the lineup pretty much remains the same. Team boss, tech director, it's all the same. The only difference is a new title sponsor and a new livery. But will there also be a change in the competitive order? They shocked the establishment last year. Will they have a rude awakening this year in what we understand already after just a few days is a tightening of the competitive order in the midfield? It could be a shock to the system, but time will tell. It's not been an easy week for them. They've had some niggles, some issues, fuel pressure issues to start with, then electronics issues, the same kind of little things recurring over and over. That may be a concern for what is still ostensibly a young team, but they don't have that excuse, or won't have that excuse much more. They have to, and they will want to show that they are a verifiable part of that upper echelon of the midfield. Romain Grosjean had a torrid time in the early half of last season, but fought back, I think, brilliantly. Showed excellent maturity, introspection, go within himself, draw the maximum out of himself and come back fighting and secure his place in Formula One for another season. Kevin Magnussen, love him or loathe him, we love him. Elbows out, ballsy racer, speaks his mind, great cat. And you can always tell with Kevin if he's feeling confident, if he's feeling good, because he can't hide his little puffed out, well, not little anymore. The drivers have been able to put on weight over the winter and muscle mass. They're stocky this year. He always has his chest puffed out and a big smile if he's feeling good in the car. So Romain and Kevin going into the year hoping they can replicate what they did in 2018 for Haas.
I think we're discovering a few issues on the car that we can sort, so that's the main thing. The feeling is better than it was on day one, which is quite good because it was already pretty good, and we've made some step in the right direction, so hoping to do a bit more. But generally, I think, we're happy with what we've got. We are learning to discover the VF19 and a few electric issues that we need to sort out, but that shouldn't be too complicated.
Is it installation issues? Is it team-related issues, or is it power unit-related issues and something that Ferrari needs to get on top of?
There you go too far. You've lost me. I don't know.
I'm quite happy with how the car feels initially. You get in and feel good immediately. There's no big issue standing out. It's just I got in the car and felt quite happy straight away. So that's a good start. That's the most important thing. And then where we are performance-wise relative to others, that's the interesting one. But let's wait a bit and see how it folds out in the rest of testing.
All change for McLaren in 2019. Team with a massive focus on it, both from their fan base, from the sport as a whole. Can they get back to the ways that created the force, the reputation of the McLaren brand? It's a huge job, and they've lost, well, the guy that they'd pinned their hopes on a few years ago. Fernando Alonso is no longer at the team. Stoffel van Dorn, who was supposed to be the future of the team, is gone. Brand new driver lineup. Lando Norris, very young, very promising rookie from the McLaren stable. Carlos Sainz comes over from Renault. They've also got new people in the management structure. Andreas Seidel comes over from Porsche in the World Endurance Championship, and they've also brought over James Key from Toro Rosso. They won't start till later in the year. Really interesting design car. They've taken a bit of a gamble on it, and they'll be hoping that it pays off because, as you can see right now, they're at the bottom end of the pit lane, all the way down here. They want to be getting back up to the sharp end again, and with the majority of their points last year scored by the Spaniard Fernando Alonso, who is no longer here, but is still a part of McLaren as he will be racing at the Indy 500 for them. Is it too much change all at once? Or is it the start of something really, really special? First week of running has been inconclusive. They've had moments where they've appeared fast, although a lot of people thought or expected that they were glory runs, low fuel runs on the opening 2 days, because their race runs, representative times, appeared to be a little bit off the pace. Anyway, let's talk to Lando. Let's talk to Carlos. Has it been a good week? How much scope is there in the car? How much potential have they realised? How far have they got to go?
I think after such a long winter, it's time to thank the mechanics and everyone back in the factory for all the design process or all the car build-up that they've done. A very hard work to get the car ready already a week ago for the presentation, and finally running it today without any issue. So small issues here and there, but nothing that stopped us from running, really. Something to be very proud of as a team. I think we've come a long way since last year, where we were here last year and where we are now, in terms of lap count, in terms of reliability. So definitely a step forward in that direction.
Everyone's trying different things. We're at a point where every session we go out, we got a different device of some kind, different part of the wing or whatever, to try and figure out and see what's the best combination of everything. It's just constant testing, making sure, one, at least we get all the laps in that we need to be able to have a good understanding of what's good, what's bad, what's good as a combination. But two, understanding this car, the direction it has to go in, and for me, obviously, to get used to it and make it my own little car. So, there's a lot of different things we have to get used to. But comparing to others, I guess you can look at the timesheets if you want, but for us it means nothing. Australia is the only time we can compare. Until then, it's literally just trying to get on with our job, our laps, and see how it goes.
It's all new at Force India in 2019 because we're not allowed to call them Force India anymore because they're not. It's Racing Point, or to be more precise, the point is now a dot. So it's Sports Pezza. Jason's laughing at me because he keeps telling me, well, it's become a thing, and I keep accidentally saying Sports Peas. Sports Pezza Racing dot, because the dot is a point. See? Racing Point. Not such a silly name now, is it? Because it just becomes Sports Pezza Racing. And if they change title sponsors in a few years' time, it'll be that title sponsor, Racing dot. So, the team brought a car which is ostensibly still the 2018 chassis homologated for 2019. They have not got the major upgrades that they will have in Melbourne. So the car they've got here, while not last year's car, it's still an upgrade to this year's car, isn't exactly the car that they will have in Melbourne at the start of the season. What is good is we've had years gone by where Force India, as was, either brought an old car to the first week of testing or just didn't come testing at all in the first week. So to have them here with a car that is ostensibly a 2019 car, even if it will be massively modified and updated for Melbourne, is a great first step. But these guys are still a team that are having to catch up from, falling behind, as it were, in the cycle of development that had happened through their administration process and the funding crisis that had led to their administration in the first place. Now with new owners and investors, they are at a much better place, but it will take some months until they are at that precise point that they need to be on train with the developmental phase. Anyway, a positive week for both Lance Stroll, new driver here, and for Sergio Perez. And I think a real level of positivity throughout the team and through both drivers of what stands ahead as they look towards what could be a really exciting season.
We just keep making progress, trying to understand the balance as much as we possibly can, and I think we're heading in the right direction.
Can you tell us any more about this progress? Have you had new parts on the car, or is it just dialing in the setup?
Just dialing the setup, understanding what you do with a degree of front wing, degree of camber, whatsoever. What happens, here and there, and that's very important to try to get a good picture, because it's the only opportunity you get before the start of the season. So we're working flat out on that, and I think today, on that regard, we made good progress.
And from what you saw of Lance yesterday, do you want a similar thing from the car? Are you going to work well together? Are you confident?
Yeah, definitely. We're working well together. Actually, his feedback has been very, very good. I think it's important at this stage to help the engineers give as much of understanding as possible for them to get a bigger picture, and I think so far it's going very well.
Yeah, so far so good. Productive day, a lot of laps. Early days, but it was good to get back in the car.
How involved has your father been today? Is he getting involved, or where do you see that sort of role taking him?
Yeah, he knows where he stands, and the rest of the team remained the same over the winter. So we're just getting on with our job.
Everyone else has shipped out and gone home. Turn around, you can have a look up the paddock. I'm not sure if you can with the light. Alfa Romeo, Sauber, as was, the team that finished 8th in the championship last year, are still here practicing pit stops. And that shows, I think, a level of intent at the team. I asked Fred Vasseur earlier in the week, if his car is as good as people think it is, are they ready to take advantage? That is your evidence right there, that they are taking this season as seriously as a team could. Because when they launched their car, it had a very different design element on the front wing, something which some people in this paddock believe could be a silver bullet if they get it working well. And as it is such a different front wing design, and the car design ultimately starts on that front wing, it will not be an easy thing to replicate if it works, and works as well as people think it could. They have a phenomenal driver lineup. In Kimi Raikkonen, released from the strictures of Ferrari, seemingly emboldened, at ease, happy. They have Antonio Giovinazzi, the young buck, young charger, great racing driver who's been through his own levels of turmoil in the sport but has gone away, been a Ferrari sim driver and reserve driver for the year and come back. Fred Vasseur is in charge at the team. There's a good feeling. Simone Resta, the Italian designer who came over from Ferrari to work on that car. There's a good vibe down here. And we don't want to speak it too loudly, but at the end of the first week, Alfa arguably find themselves potentially at the head of that midfield battle. Yes, we can't read too much into the times, but their long run pace appeared good and consistent and reliable right up until the last 5 minutes of the last day. They were bulletproof. Giovinazzi looks good and confident. Kimi looks confident and good. This is a team who 2 years ago were fighting to get off the last row of the grid. Could they be the surprise of 2019? Let's ask them.
I mean, we've done pretty decent amount of laps. Obviously, we always want to do more, but I just tried different things a little bit on normal stuff. And next week we try to do a proper setup work and put every small details a bit more together.
You're used to coming winter testing. You've been doing it for a number of years now, but this is a little bit different. You're used to coming in with Ferrari and expecting to be at the top of the timesheets. What were you expecting coming into this week? And are your expectations different for the season now than they were 2 days ago?
No, they're not different. I don't have any expectation. We can only do our best, and I think the team has built a good car, so that's a good starting point. And obviously we have still a lot things to work on, but for sure more works to be done than maybe in a bigger team. I think so far it's been pretty good.
The first feeling with the car is really positive. The car looks really good. For sure we need to still improve something. We did a lot of laps this morning. We will do, I hope, same amount of laps this afternoon, and then just check everything after today and work for the next week on the other 4 days. And just try to improve the car how much we can. The first day, for me, the first morning was like the morning before, going to Christmas. So I'm really enjoying a lot. It was a dream came true when I knew back in October that I will race here this season. And now I'm just enjoying the moment. I'm really happy to drive the car, the best car in the world, the Formula One, and to work in a good team like Alfa Romeo Racing.
Now, we've spoken already about Red Bull Racing and their relationship with Honda getting off to a really great start. But what about Toro Rosso, of course, who had Honda engines last year? The relationship spurning that relationship now with Red Bull. They've had a brilliant testing week as well. 2 new drivers. Well, one of them newish. Danny Kvyat is back for a third bite of the cherry. How many drivers get 2 chances, let alone 3? Great to see him back. Talking to Franz Toster and Graham Watson earlier in the week, they said it's like having the old Danny back, not the second gen that came that was a bit beaten up by being demoted from Red Bull Racing. The original, young, fevered up Danny back. And in the other car, Alex Albon, massively impressive in Formula 2, who until this week had done, I think, about 11 laps in the car, so was still on sort of a provisional license, had his green lights flashing at the back of the car. Kvyat only went and topped day 3 of testing. Alex Albon topped the majority of day 4 of testing and was just pipped at the end by Nico Hülkenberg. But again, reliable running, pacey running. Things are looking good down here at Toro Rosso, but how are the drivers feeling? Danny on making his comeback, Alex on getting the chance in Formula 1 that perhaps he thought he might never get. And what kind of a car have they got underneath them?
It was a good experience. Definitely the high-speed stuff still is new to me. It's a bit of a shock, but I'm enjoying it.
How was your initial feeling in the car once you finally got in, did some laps under your belt?
The feeling was that I knew kind of what the car could do just from the simulator, but of course once you have the G-forces and once you have the speed going, it does take a while. You know in your mind what you can do to it, to the car, but doing it was a different story, and it took a while to build up. Still, to be honest, today there is some margin there, but no, it felt okay. I think these cars there is so much grip that the kind of the braking, the feeling in general, you feel quite comfortable straight away. It's more just trying to push them extra tenths out where you've got to be really with the car and connected and fight the car a little bit more. That will take a bit more time.
Generally, I think it was all in all a positive day. It's early to draw all the conclusions, but all in all, I think we have a good baseline for now, and we need to keep working. Every time we were on track today, everything was running smooth. Understanding was on a high level, and we have strong things to look ahead, and hopefully we can develop on it.
Now, one of the big headlines of the week of testing was, of course, Williams. We touched on it at the top of the show, and we'll go into it in a little bit more detail right now. Of course, the team finished bottom in the Constructors' Championship last year, and there was hope for the green shoots of recovery coming into this year with a new car, with a new driver in Robert Kubica, the fairy tale return of the Grand Prix winner and such a talented guy. George Russell as a rookie coming in and all of the promise around him. And then we arrived here and the team had to announce car wasn't ready, wouldn't be here on day one. Perhaps it'll be here for day two. No, it wasn't going to be here for day two. It arrived on the evening of day 2, 4 a.m. And lunchtime on day 3, it finally hit the track. They have had just 1.5 days of running. The majority of that on day 3 was a shakedown test, 20 laps there or thereabouts in the books. Today, most of the day was spent with the aero rakes running through those processes. It's been a very, very hard start to 2019 for Williams, but the positive thing is they've got their 2019 car on track. It's here, and as we've said before, with other teams, with the Saubers or the Force Indias, they've had pre-season tests before where they've not had their car for that year, and let alone at the first week, at testing at all. So while Claire Williams admitted it was embarrassing, while the future of Paddy Lowe hangs in the balance, at least they've got the car here, and they're in, and they're swinging. George Russell, Robert Kubica, two supremely talented drivers. What have they made of their very limited running in their 2019 car?
A bit late, but it's better now than never. Today was a mixed day between checking up systems and trying to get a bit of data for a new car. It's more about not like, it doesn't feel like day 4 of testing, but it felt like day 1. So I get the opportunity for 12 laps to get a feel of the car, which is of course limiting, but at least most of the stuff we achieved, not all. It wasn't an easy morning, but we'll see.
Are you worried at all by the fact that there was such a delay getting the car here?
Well, I worry. I'm not. It would be better to have a bit more ideas and a bit more feeling in the car, especially the Australia is not far off, and it would be better to be prepared both from driver point of view and car point of view. But the reality is this, so we have to keep working, and hopefully everything will be sorted for Australia. I will see.
It felt stable, and I had a good feeling from it. But I think there's counter arguments to say, because at the moment I'm still not fully on the limit. I still don't know the limits of the car, so I'm not going balls out attack to know where that is yet. So until I fully wring everything out of it, it's going to be difficult to know where we're at and the full limitations or where we need to improve.
You're used to driving a Mercedes and a Force India as a reference point. Is that a positive thing to have, something that is of that high caliber?
Yeah, I think definitely gives me a good understanding of what we need to be working towards, really. Obviously, no matter what industry you're in, you want to be the best or beat the best, and having that experience for me last year makes me understand what that is really. So I'm in quite a privileged position to have driven that car.
There's a lot of negativity in the headlines around the team this week, but in some cases in winter testing, some teams don't actually have a 2019 or their current car at the first week of testing. Is it an achievement in and of itself that the team has got the car here for week 1?
Yeah, I think even myself, until you're involved in a Formula 1 team, you don't understand how much work goes on just to get a Formula 1 car on the track. And I went around the factory, I saw everybody in January, and I was amazed. And I've been in a Formula 1 team for 2 years now, and I was still amazed at how much effort goes in just to making the most simplest of parts. So, we've seen it before. Force India missed the whole of 2015 testing, I want to say, and they still finished 5th in the championship. And you don't get points for testing, so who knows what will happen.
So that's your lot from Paddock Pass here in Barcelona for the first week of pre-season testing. As always at testing, many questions, which we have attempted to answer and probably got completely wrong. That is the risk you run at testing. One thing I think that's fascinating and one thing I think that's great is that every team is here, every car is here. We've seen every driver out on track. And there are so many great stories. There's so much expectation going into this year. And really, can't wait to get back for the second week. I'm sure we'll find out a lot more. And in 7 days' time, we'll be standing here, potentially with a clearer picture of where we stand. For now, though, that's your lot. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you later.